is Karl.
You didn't know him.
But I have a lot of facial now.
Okay, fact about Karl. His name is Henry. He was born on the 5th of May in 1818 and raised in Trier, Germany. He died March 14th, 1883 in London, England. And following the death of his wife, Marx developed it's a catarrh, but it's just a cold. It kept him in ill health for the last 15 months of his life. It eventually brought out on bronchitis and pleurisy that killed him.
Pleurisy is an inflammation of the lungs causing chest pain.
Oh, okay. He was laid to rest in Highgate Cemetery with his wife. He was one of 9 children born to Heinrich and Henrietta Marx. 4 of his siblings died from tuberculosis. His father was a successful lawyer who was a passionate activist for Persian reform. Both parents were Jewish, but Karl's father converted to Christianity at age 35, likely because of the law that banned Jews from high society. When he was 6, Karl was baptized along with the other children. His education, he was an average student, and he was educated at home until he was 12, and then he spent 5 years in Can you say that?
Juicet High School?
Yeah, I went over all these words, but I still don't know how to say them. Juicet High School in Trier. On October 1835, Marx began studying at the University of Bonn. Here he was imprisoned for drunkenness and disturbing the peace, incurred debts, and participated in a duel. His father insisted he enroll in the more serious University of Berlin, where he studied law and physiology. He received his doctorate from the University of Jena in 1841, but his radical politics prevented him from securing a teaching position. This is a couple of that wasn't supposed to come up.
Yeah, but this is
Put it in the wrong place.
He had like a whole bunch of daughters. He named Jenny after his wife. It's a little weird, but this is 2 of his Jennies.
Yeah, it'll be in the next slide.
Like their first names?
This is Jenny Laura. This is Jenny Eleanor. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
But they weren't middle names, they were all
That
first
was his
names.
wife's name. So this is personal
This is
life.
the Jennies.
Yeah, this is all the Jennies down here.
Oh my goodness.
But he was born into the Jewish faith in Germany. His family later converted to their views of Lutheranism. Marx became secretly engaged to Jenny, that's his wife. In 1836, a sought-after woman from a respected family.
Her family disowned her because she married him.
Yeah, after they got together. She died of cancer in 1881 at the age of 67. His close friends and relatives called him Mohir because of his dark complexion. It's like a nickname to some people in Eastern Germany if they had like a darker complexion. He was a very heavy smoker of pipes and cigars. As a child, he witnessed persecution of his family members. This made him resent the government. Marx and his wife Jenny spent most of their lives in poverty, relying mainly on friends to take care of them and their family. Many of Karl and Jenny's children died from tuberculosis. Here's all the children. There's 4 Jennies.
There's Jenny Caroline, Jenny Laura, Edgar.
Yeah, there's that
Edgar. Henry Edward, Guy, Jenny, Evelyn, and Jenny Julia.
And then it says there are allegations that he fathered a son, Freddie, out of wedlock by his housekeeper. So nobody knows.
They had another kid, but he died before he got a name.
Probably been Jenny. I'm just going to guess it.
Here's some of his works. He wrote comments on the latest Persian censorship instruction. It was a critique of the Persian feudal and system. It was Marx's first piece of journalism. Then he wrote an article, critical marginal notes on the article The King of Persia and the Social Reform. And he had 187 works. We didn't get all of them, but we got the Communist Manifesto and all that's on the other side. He wrote a book, The Capital, and him and Jenny thought that was going to be the book that set his family up for life, but he missed the publishing deadline by like 16 years. So they didn't get any money for that. They got a check after he died, and it went to his kids. But yeah,
They were still poor.
he died for
The Jennies.
The ones that lived.
Awards.
It's not really an award.
Yeah, but they put his picture on like the highest marked field in East Germany until the Berlin Wall fell. But he wasn't really well liked. He was ran out. Yeah, he was ran out of a lot of countries because of his radical views. So we couldn't find any awards on him. He wasn't a really liked guy. He was in hiding pretty much.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's
Probably why he kept the beard.
disguised. The reason why Karl wrote is to explain that the natural views of individuals depend on the material conditions determining their production, to persuade society that as long as class distinctions persist, abuse will continue unchecked with misery and social disorders. Marx was rejected a position at the University of Jena, so that's one of the reasons he started writing, is because he didn't really have anything else to do because he couldn't get a job, so he started being a journalist. He had radical views that led his family depending on other people and writing books. He wrote about communism because of the poverty him and his family endured. He believed that if the government didn't help take care of the poor people, that there was going to be a revolt.
Yeah, so because his family was always poor, he felt like, this would be fair to people and help people that was in his same position.
A rhetorical situation. The title is The Communist Manifesto. It was written by Karl Marx. The audience was directed.
May I have your attention, please? Students that with EKU should be back in class.
It was geared toward the government leaders and citizens, trying to convince them that communism is the right thing. The context was many people were in poverty and suffering, and he seen them as a way to get the government to help them. The purpose was to inform and educate and sort of persuade the people to come to accept communism. And Marx's main concern was that of the future. He wanted people to see that his views were the inevitable, or he thought they were inevitable. He compared the bourgeoisies and the proletarians. The proletarians was communist, like future communist, he thought. And himself, as well as many others, were living in poverty at the fault of the government, and he wanted to inform the people in the government that social classes were not accepted and that the past should not determine the future. And he thought people were equal with God, so they needed to be in the communities. And there's not a need for excess stuff. So that's why he thought communist would be the right answer. Then he has like the 10 reasons he thinks communism would work. Well, he justifies it. He thought that there shouldn't be any fees to rent land for public purposes, that there shouldn't be a heavy tax, income tax. He didn't think people should inherit things. He wanted to abolish that, and then he didn't want property to immigrants and rebels. He wanted the hands of the state, and he wanted a monopoly. He didn't like the exclusive monopoly. He centralized the means of communication and transport, extensions of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. He wanted to cut down the wastelands and improvement of social people, yeah. Then he wanted free education for all children in public schools. He didn't like child labor. He wanted to get rid of that. And then he wanted to combine agriculture and the manufacturing industries and equal liability for all labor.
The kind of communism he wanted is nothing like the kind that was in, what's it called?
It's not like the Red Scare. It's his is more. He describes like a utopia society, but it really isn't possible. Effects on society. Until quite recently, almost half of the population of the world lived under regimes that actually claimed to be Marxist. He inspired the foundation of many communists. He critiqued capital, saying that capital's power is leading to the views on how government is ran and led the government to be questioned. And many people believe that Marx influenced the revolution, although he never suggested it in the work. But there was a rebellion a little bit after that led to the popularity of the Communist Manifesto. His relevance, many people study it in history classes. English students read and evaluate his writings. Marx fathered communism, is what many people believe. Many people are still in poverty, and the government isn't helping all the individuals.
His idea of communism is still compared to, like, stuff we do today and the different types of communism. Right? So he helps make those.
And that's it.